The next 4 years of LSU's SEC football opponents are now released. I've got what you need to know. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get great podcasts. Of course, on YouTube as well, so please subscribe as always. One of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the FanDuel app today. We got a ton to talk about. We already knew that the three permanent annual rivals had been released. They were leaked on Monday to Chris Lowe over at On3, and we knew LSU was going to play Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Arkansas. What we didn't know until Tuesday evening was the rest of the schedule, the other 6 teams that LSU would play on a rotating basis. Well, we now know that, and I want to dive into it. Also, our weekly visit with Shea Dixon from On3, the Bengal Tiger. He gives his reaction to Peyton Houston's commitment, a fascinating conversation about Elijah Haven. And then also, might LSU be able to flip 5-star offensive lineman Immanuel Iheanacho and 5-star safety Blaine Bradford? Shea gives you the latest there. That's all coming up on today's episode. So thank you so much for hanging out with us here. So I took a stab, a best guess at what LSU's schedule was going to look like. Now, some of it was common sense. And of the 9 opponents for 2026, I nailed 8 of them. There's one that I missed, and I'll tell you who it was in a minute. So let's kind of go through the thought process of how this all was going to shape out. So we knew there were 3 teams that LSU was going to play, the annual rivals, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Arkansas. LSU is going to play those 3 every year. Okay. And also, to be clear, we know the opponents. We don't know the schedule. So we don't know the order, the dates, that sort of thing yet. We know who they're going to play home and away for the next 4 years. So you have your 3 permanent opponents or annual rivals. We got to retrain our brains to how we're going to call those. And then the 6 opponents you'll play in 2026. Then in 2027, the 6 teams you don't play in 26, you'll play in 27. Then in 2028, the 6 teams you play in 26, we'll flip home and away. And then in 29, the 6 teams you play 2 years prior will flip home and away. Does that make sense? So you'll play the same 6 home and away every other year, if that makes sense. So as I was going through it, I said there was 3. We know the 3, right? We know Ole Miss, A&M, Arkansas. One to me was very obvious, and that was Texas coming to Baton Rouge. Remember, LSU had a home and home with Texas scheduled for 2019 and 2020. LSU fans know this well. LSU played the Texas leg of that home and home in 2019, won a thriller, 3rd and 17. You remember the whole drill. Well, COVID was the following year. And then after that, the Texas-Oklahoma news broke a year later that they were going to be entering the conference. And so Texas never made the return trip. Texas and Oklahoma come into the league in 2024, and they're not immediately on the LSU schedule in that 2-year cycle in 24-25. So LSU has still been waiting for 6 years now for Texas to make the return trip to Baton Rouge. At first opportunity for the league to do that, they were going to do it, and they did, in fact, do it. So Texas comes to Baton Rouge in 2026. That, to me, was a no-brainer. That was going to happen. So those were 4. Also, I didn't think LSU or the SEC was going to saddle LSU with both Alabama and Florida in the same year. I figured they would break those up. So you maintained at least one of those each year. I closed my eyes and picked and guessed they'd probably maintain the Bama game in 2026 and have Bama come to Baton Rouge. And lo and behold, they did. So LSU will play Alabama in Baton Rouge in 2026. They will not play Florida. Then there were 2 more of LSU's most common opponents that they haven't played the last 2 years under the new format. And my assumption was those 2 would come back. And those might seem obvious to you now. It was Auburn and Mississippi State. Of course, LSU has played Mississippi State more than any other opponent in its football history, and Auburn is in the top 10 of most common opponents that LSU's played in its football history. So we were at this point that felt pretty obvious. Your 3 annual rivalries, Texas coming to Baton Rouge, maintain the Alabama game, and then Auburn, Mississippi State back on. So those were 7. So the question was, what other two are they going to play? Well, I said, let's look at the schools that LSU didn't play in this current rotation of the last 2 years. And that left you with Missouri, Kentucky, Georgia, and Tennessee. Didn't think that LSU and Oklahoma were going to play this year because they had to balance out the schedule. So and I didn't think they were going to put Georgia on this schedule when LSU was already going to play Alabama and Auburn and Ole Miss and Texas A&M. Like, everybody's schedule is going to be a gauntlet, but they have to try their best to balance some things out. So I said I figured they'd play Missouri and Kentucky. In the end, the one I missed was Kentucky. They're playing Missouri and Tennessee. So the 9 games that LSU will play next year at home, LSU will play Alabama, Mississippi State, Texas, and Texas A&M. The road schedule will be Arkansas, Ole Miss, Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee. All things considered, that's not an awful draw. Now, I do want to point out you do play 5 road games next year. And I have had some people say, that sucks. You got to play 5 road games. Keep in mind, that is literally going to happen to every team in the conference. You will alternate years where you have 4 home games, 5 road games. The next year, you will have 5 home games, 4 road games in the league. You play 9 league games. There's literally no other way to do it. Like, you're going to just have an imbalance in the schedule, and that's how it's going to play out. I want to remind you, however, that in 2026, Clemson makes the return trip to Baton Rouge. So LSU in 2026 is going to play at home Clemson, Alabama, Texas, Texas A&M, Mississippi State. That is an absolutely delicious home schedule. If you're a season ticket holder and you love going into Tiger Stadium for those types of games, for home games, my goodness, that is as good a home slate as you could ever imagine, maybe has ever been played. And that's just obviously with the conference games that you're going to play and then adding Clemson. So an incredible home slate for 2026, which means in 2027, of course. Oh, by the way, one other thing. It was also going to happen with a new schedule that you were going to, this is just math, that you were going to end up making a road trip for the second consecutive year, and you were going to end up playing a game against the same team at home for the second consecutive year. So in 2026, LSU is going to go back to Ole Miss for the second consecutive year, but A&M comes to Baton Rouge 2 years in a row. It's just, this happened back in 2001, 2002, when the schedule expanded to 12 games. If you remember, maybe you don't. I just remember I was in school at LSU at the time, and I remember it. But in 2001, LSU played at Kentucky, won a thriller where Michael Clayton caught a touchdown pass from Rohan Davey late in the game to win it. They went back to Kentucky in 2002, which of course became the Bluegrass Miracle. Ole Miss, meanwhile, came to LSU back-to-back years in 01 and 02. 2001 was a devastating loss where Eli Manning, as a young player, led a fourth-quarter comeback for Ole Miss, and they beat LSU, which looked like it ended LSU's hopes for the SEC championship game. But as we all know, it worked out for LSU in the end. And then LSU beat Ole Miss in Baton Rouge in 2002. So in any event, that was the nature of this was going to happen that way. So the 26 schedule, and so then the 27 schedule flips where you'll have 5 home conference games. Your home conference schedule in 2027 will be Arkansas, Ole Miss, Missouri, Vandy, Oklahoma. 27 is a very manageable home schedule. However, your road schedule in 2027, Texas A&M, it's only 4 games. Texas A&M, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. At Florida, at Georgia, at A&M are certainly tough, and we'll see what South Carolina is in 2027. Then remember, in 28, you just flip home and away from 26, and then in 2029, you flip home and away from 2027. So, the 2028 schedule means you are at Texas, at Bama, at Ole Miss, at Arkansas, at Mississippi State, but you'll get A&M, Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee at home. So it'll be a fascinating schedule, but that means Auburn won't come to Baton Rouge until 2028. It means you will have gone from the year before this 2-year expansion to 2028 without having played a game against Auburn in Tiger Stadium. So good long while, and that's just kind of part and parcel with how this is going to go. As we say, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. But I think if there's one team that I look at and go, my goodness, that is brutal, it's Auburn. If you look at what Auburn has coming up next year, they do have to play LSU, but my goodness, did Auburn get a really tough look? The reality is there's no team that is going to have an easy draw. You're playing 9 SEC games, but when you look at Auburn next year, at Bama, at Georgia, at Ole Miss, at A&M, at Tennessee, home against Vandy, Arkansas, Florida, LSU. My goodness, good luck to Hugh Freeze or whoever is coaching the Auburn Tigers in 2026, because that is a murderer's row. Nothing will be easy playing 9 SEC games and a Power 4 non-conference game, but this is what we want. We want great football every week. If you're sick of bemoaning FCS opponents at the end of September or ridiculous blowout games at the end of November, this is going to solve a lot of that, and I can't wait for it. It's going to be an awesome 2026 college football season with all of the Power 4 playing 9 league games and a Power 4 non-conference opponent. We're going to purge some of the garbage games that nobody wants to see, and I can't wait for it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Okay, we'll knock out a quick break. Come back. Shea Dixon from On3, the Bengal Tiger, will jump aboard with us here on Locked On LSU, your team every day. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride. With more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025, you see, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls, like our players, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's show is also brought to you by Monarch Money. You know, most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. You see, Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Maybe you're looking to maximize investments, increase your savings rate. You can easily review your finances with your partner and or your financial advisor. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Every week, we visit with Shea Dixon from On3, the Bengal Tiger. We talk a little recruiting, and LSU got massive news a little more than a week ago when Peyton Houston, a top 10 quarterback in the country for the class of 2027, became LSU's first 2027 commitment. Now, it's fascinating because Houston at first was thought to be a Southern Cal lead, which means, yes, Lincoln Riley, quarterback guru, quarterback whisperer, Lincoln Riley wanted Peyton Houston. Then it appears as though Oklahoma had taken the lead for Peyton Houston. But LSU got the final visit the weekend before he made his announcement. And on that Monday, a week ago, Peyton Houston from Evangel and Shreveport decided he'll stay home in Louisiana and play for the LSU Tigers. And Shea Dixon kind of talked about how that all wrapped up together.
He's just he gets so many reps. He's got a great completion percentage, throws for a lot of touchdowns. And as Charles Power was telling me, like I said, the guy who does all of our rankings and scouting, he was like, look, he could be 5'10", 5'11". If he doesn't hit another growth spurt, he doesn't get above 6 foot. We've seen guys like this before. And look, Lincoln Riley was knocking down the door to get Peyton Houston to USC. Oklahoma wanted him badly. So kudos to LSU and Joe Sloan, everyone involved here for getting him in the boat, because a lot of people didn't think he would end up at LSU. We were talking about other guys in that class more than we were talking about Peyton Houston. But I was very curious of your opinion on this. So I saved it for today. Charles's comp is Chris Leak. So would you like a Chris Leak to be?
Chris Leak is an interesting comp, and some LSU fans may recoil at that. The thing I'll say is Peyton Houston, I think, is a much better athlete than Chris Leak, in the sense that Chris Leak wasn't ever really a runner in his time at Florida. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at his rushing stats right here. For his entire career, playing 51 games at Florida, he ran 311 times for 137 yards. Of course, that's not sack adjusted. As a freshman in 2003, Leak ran for negative 53, which of course was all sack yards. Point being, Peyton Houston is a legitimate dual threat option who can make plays with his feet. Chris Leak wasn't that, but Chris Leak was an outstanding college quarterback. He was a 5-star, threw a beautiful pass, took command. Of course, in 2003, came to Baton Rouge as a true freshman and led the upset of the team that ultimately won the national championship that year in those LSU Tigers. So it's interesting, and a lot of times it's important to keep that front of mind. Remember, Peyton Houston is a top 10 quarterback in the composite, but ESPN ranks Peyton Houston as the number 1 quarterback in the country. Now, I also asked Shea about Elijah Haven, because Elijah Haven is this fascinating conversation for LSU fans because, number one, he's right here in Baton Rouge. And in the composite rankings for 2027, he's the number 1 quarterback. Now, it's worth mentioning, Rivals ranks him as their number 7 quarterback. But in the composite, he's the number 1 quarterback. And Shea kind of explained why. Now, remember, Charles Power, who he referenced here, is the director of scouting, does all the rankings for On3, now Rivals. But it's interesting as he kind of worked through this, because my point with bringing up Haven and Houston, the comparison is I get a feeling a lot of LSU fans are longing for Elijah Haven. And the more you look at this, you kind of get the sense that the staff really favored Peyton Houston over Elijah Haven.
When rankings come out, which is out, again, I'll reference Charles here. He hates it because he's like, look, not many kids play as freshmen. Now, credit to Haven. He did at Dunham as a true freshman. So when you go out and you play very well and you're that size, you're going to be ranked very high. I just think as time goes on, you see more and more guys playing, as sophomores and then as juniors now, and the rankings start to flesh themselves out. So the kind of rule of thumb I've heard is if you love rankings, wait till kind of they start their senior year and everybody's already had at least a year under their belt. And then kind of, if not more, who are the best quarterbacks and who aren't. I mean, remember Bo Bentley, who went to OU over LSU. The only reason they were able to get involved there is because he didn't start till his junior year. So nobody was on him. So it kind of played out in LSU's favor, at least to be involved. I think that we've just had such a large sample size of Haven already that we've talked about him for a long time. So, yeah. But look, if you're just looking at stats, yeah, sure. And look, I'm not going to compare Evangel and Dunham, but Peyton Houston has set a lot of records for a reason. He's a really, really good high school quarterback. And I think people feel like that translates to college. And here's my take on it, if I think that LSU would be pressing for the guy they wanted most, and it just seemed like that they were pressing for Peyton Houston. Now, I've been in the boat that I think that they take 2 quarterbacks, but when you have the portal and you don't really know who's going to still be on your roster and you're 2 years out from signing, it's impossible to know. It's like, we could be talking, Peyton Houston could go somewhere else. We could be talking about a Haven or a Nussmeier in this class. Like, I have no idea. But at this moment, I can't disagree with what you said, that it appears if you're going to take your very first commit and it's a quarterback, that you feel pretty good about that quarterback in a year when there's 3 quarterbacks in this state who have SEC offers, and there's 1 in your border state you recruit who not only has SEC offers, but he's your starter's little brother. Yeah. So, that obviously lends some credence to what you're saying of Peyton Houston's probably a pretty good player.
It is a long way from over with where LSU lands at quarterback for 2027. I mean, these guys are just beginning their junior year, but if the Bryce Underwood situation taught us anything, it's you better get on your guy early, because if you don't, you could end up in a pickle. LSU identified the guy they want. They got him committed. Now he's been a massive recruiter already for LSU in the 2027 class in Peyton Houston. But a long way to go. From 27 to the current class of 2026, there's 2 5-stars that LSU is eyeing, looking to flip. A 5-star offensive lineman and a local 5-star safety. Shea gives you an update on those 2 guys as we continue. Locked on LSU, your team every day. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Monday Night Football, I hit an anytime touchdown score bet with Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Lions. It's that easy. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick. It's easy. It's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com. As we continue our conversation with Shea Dixon from On3, the Bengal Tiger, there were 2 other prospects that I wanted to ask Shea about. One, a long-distance 5-star, one who is stone's throw from LSU's campus. And I want to start with the big offensive lineman, Immanuel Iheanacho, one of the top 10 overall players in the country for the class of 2026. He is currently committed to Oregon, but LSU is pushing for a flip. And a couple of weeks ago, Iheanacho was in Baton Rouge, hosted by Lamar Brown at an LSU game. And if you were not at least even considering flipping to LSU, would you really on your own dime have hopped a flight down to Baton Rouge for a game? Maybe, but Shea gave us an update on the 5-star offensive lineman.
They were rumored to be the number 2 team when he committed to Oregon over the summer. And now he's come out and said it, that, hey, look, I am visiting Penn State. That's the only other school. But he's going to Penn State for the Oregon game. So, like, I can put 2 and 2 together there. LSU was not playing Oregon. They were playing Florida, and he came in for that game. So if he doesn't go to Oregon, it'll be LSU. Now, what do you have to do to get him? They've already had an official visit, which brought his whole family here. But you saw him a lot with Lamar Brown. That was his host, kind of, for his return for his first game in Tiger Stadium. But he didn't have any family with him, so he was kind of just hanging out with all the recruits. So kudos to Lamar Brown there for spearheading the weekend. The goal, which they're working on and they feel like is going to happen, is get him back in town for a game closer to signing day with his family. And if you do that, then you got a real shot. If you don't, then you're on the outside looking in. And look, I don't think you can bank on, like, well, what if Oregon has a bad season? That's not going to happen. Right. So you're going to need to out recruit them. And look, they've gone, I know people are going to sit around and say, and it's very true, that Oregon has an empty checkbook, pop thing, and they'll get anybody. Well, I saw LSU beat him out for DJ Pickett. I saw him beat him out for Deuce Gerald's this cycle, a top 10 D lineman. Like, the one thing that's rough on Dan Lanning is he wants to recruit SEC territory and the best of the best, and sometimes Oregon's just far away. And Iheanacho's a kid from DC area, right? Like, that's a trek. Yes, you can get on a flight and all that, but I think one thing that does play into LSU's favor is it's not on the other side of the country, right? You're looking at a completely different ocean over there. So we've got the Gulf down here. You can at least have that. It's in between. So I think they've got a shot here, Matt. I won't say it's imminent, but if they get him back to campus with his family, then it becomes really something to monitor, because very evidently, if you're committed, you're good to go, right? Like, you're committed to that school. If you make 3 visits to another school that you openly admit is the other team that you would kind of wanted to go to, and you bring your family on 2 of them since you've committed, that's notable to me.
Notable. So Immanuel Iheanacho, one to watch. By the way, if you're not familiar, Iheanacho is an offensive tackle. He's listed at 6'7", 380. 6'7", 380. In the composite, he's the number 6 overall player in the country, the number 2 offensive tackle in America. So a massive prospect, both literally and figuratively. One to watch, a name to know, Immanuel Iheanacho. The other is a name I think we all know very well at this point, Blaine Bradford. His brother Jacob is currently on the team, the prominent safety from Catholic High in Baton Rouge, currently committed to Ohio State. How is LSU's flip efforts going?
Yeah, I ask this every day to sources, and they say just give it time. I don't think they think it's imminent, but boy, he's in there and he's watching a defense that, boy, it's back to DBU, right, Matt?
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys are on their way out. And Blaine Bradford looks like maybe the best safety in the country. So I'm keeping an eye on that one all the way to signing day. I don't have him sharpied into Ohio State. It's a pencil, and we'll see where it goes if I need to use my eraser.
Bradford, for what it's worth, is listed as the number 46 player in the composite, the fifth best safety, but he was a 5-star at one point. His ranking has dropped a little bit in large part because he was injured and missed a bulk of his junior year. But as you heard Shea say there, wait until they play their senior year when the new rankings come out, when you'll see Bradford's had an incredible start to his senior season at Catholic High, and certainly he's going to end up as one of the top safety prospects in the country. And a guy who is going to be in Tiger Stadium an awful lot, watching his brother Jacob Bradford dress out for the Tigers this year as he plays as a freshman for the LSU Tigers. Don't give up on Blaine Bradford just yet. And as Shea said, look, AJ Halsey is going to be out of eligibility. Jordan Gilbert will be out of eligibility. You're talking about you're going to have some turnover in that room and an opportunity for guys to get on the field. Of course, we do our recruiting updates every week with Shea Dixon from On3, the Bengal Tiger. Okay, that's going to do it for us here on today's episode. It's another big moment for Locked On college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview, a college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Okay, that's going to do it for us. Hey, thanks so much for making us your first listen. If you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app, rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video, and be sure to let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked On LSU. It's your team every day.